Howdy friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Abby and this is Type 9 Studio, where I give you tips about Etsy, small business, all kinds of stuff. Today we're going to talk about 10 things that I wish I had known when I started or was trying to grow my Etsy shop and slash small business. So starting an Etsy shop or a business in general is pretty exciting, but also can be daunting because there's just a lot that you don't know, and then you don't know that you don't know it. So all these tips would apply to places like Shopify, Big Cartel, WooCommerce. They're just general like best practices, though some things are specific to Etsy, but I feel like you could take that and reapply it to other places. It is dusk right now outside and there are birds chirping and crickets, so enjoy the ambiance. So I've been a full-time seller on Etsy for about 1.5 years and have sold there for a total of about 5 years. So your journey will be different than mine because every niche and topic and category is going to be different. And I definitely only learned most of these within the last year or so. So hearing tips and advice is one thing, but actually doing it and applying it to your shop or your situation is the key. And a bonus tip before we even start is to take everyone's advice with a grain of salt, even mine, because everybody's experience is going to be different. We all have different niches, different life experience, different backgrounds. So it's up to you to decide what's best for you and your business and your lifestyle. So there's not a Krabby Patty secret formula for everyone's Etsy shop. It's all going to be different. And anybody that tries to sell you one is full of baloney. So moving on, it was pretty hard to narrow down this list, so let me know if you have any other questions or anything else that you want me to talk about. And if you found any of these tips helpful, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. That helps me to grow my channel and help more people with their Etsy shops. So number one, niche down, then expand. So the concept of a niche is kind of hard to explain if you're not sure exactly what it is. It's basically like your area or your focus. So like your niche could be children's jewelry, or it could be natural body lotion, or like quirky candles. Like that would be a niche. Let me give you an example of what I did with my shop. That way it'll kind of help lead you in the right direction a little bit. So my shop is eco-friendly reusable products, and I started with reusable cotton rounds. So those are, you can use them instead of the disposable cotton pads or cotton balls if you want to put on toner or take your makeup off. So I started with those, and then as I got more sales and expanded, I went on to different kinds of eco-friendly reusable things. So like cloth wipes, non-paper towels, reusable straw pouches, and so on. So not the exact same product over and over again, but different things that would fit within the eco-friendly niche so that eco-friendly people would be interested in them. Because if I had stuck to just reusable cotton rounds, I would have run out of customers pretty quickly. But now if I sell somebody some cotton rounds, they might come back to my shop for other things. And one person only needs so many reusable cotton rounds, so I would have very few repeat customers, if any. And likely, like I said a second ago, if they're interested in reusable cotton rounds, then they're likely interested in other reusable eco-friendly things as well. So here's why it's important to niche down first. So especially if you're just starting out, it's really easy to get carried away because you want to have options for your customers, but at the same time, you can't afford to take the throw everything at the wall and see what sticks approach, because that's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of time, and it's going to be overwhelming. Like, if I can't imagine if I had started with all of the products that I have. I think at the time I'm filming this, I have 163 listings. If I had started with 163 listings, I would have quit a long time ago. So I'd suggest to plan out possible categories that you could expand into and then pick 1 or 2 of them to start with. So if you get really good at those and you start making sales, then you can expand onto other things. Then as you make new products, each one gets easier and easier. Like in terms of marketing, making the listings, doing photography and things, because you'll already have experience. So use what you learn with each new product to make the next ones better. Number 2, spend time on photography. So if you're just starting out on Etsy, chances are you're not hiring a professional product photographer. And truthfully, you don't need one unless you're making the big bucks and maybe you don't have time and need to do other things, and you can hire one, but that's if you're watching this video, that's not you. So all you need to take good product photos is a newer smartphone, a window, and a plain background. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I see with almost all new shops is the photography. So your product has to be the star of the photo, not the background, not the props. The photo should be bright and well lit. If they turn out a little dark or if the color is off, you can make minor adjustments in an editing software. So you can adjust the brightness, the saturation to make it as close to real life as possible, but definitely do not use filters or anything that would make it look different than it does in person. Another mistake that I see with photography on Etsy is the cropping. So you're probably inclined to take product photos in a vertical format because you're used to taking pictures for social media, but Etsy listing photos, or at least the thumbnail ones, are horizontal. Because if you upload a square or a vertical picture to Etsy and then Etsy crops it for the thumbnail, you can kind of adjust it, even though it doesn't really work for me that well. But then when your customer orders and they get the order confirmation, they're going to see the entire thing. So like if you're taking a picture of a table and then like you can see your feet in the picture, that's going to show up on their order confirmation. So you don't want that. So just before you upload it, go ahead and crop it and make it the way you want it. Don't rely on Etsy's listing maker thing to do it for you, because it doesn't always work. So when you take your photos, take them from many different orientations and different layouts, you know, like vertical, horizontal, take some like from far away, some from close up. That way you'll have plenty to put on Etsy and then also to reuse for social media later on. So take way more photos than you think you need, and that way they'll all be in the same lighting too. So if you're using a platform that's not Etsy, or if you forget like me, I can never remember the 800 by 1000. I don't know why, that seems easy to remember, but you can just Google X website listing photo dimensions. So like you can look up Shopify listing photo dimensions, BigCommerce listing photo dimensions, on and on. So number 3, have a lot of products. This seems like a contradiction to the first one, but it's important for long-term results. So having too few items will hurt your shop for a number of reasons. If you go take a look at any other shop in your niche that has a lot of sales, like in the thousands, tens of thousands even, I guarantee you 99% of them have well over 100 listings, and that's not a coincidence. So having a lot of products will fill up the search results, and it makes your shop more visible. So if shoppers see the same shop name or the same like style of photos over and over again in the search, then that kind of shows you as an established shop in that category. And if you've shopped on Etsy yourself, you probably noticed that as well. Like if you're looking for something specific and you see a shop that has a lot of that kind of item, then you're like, oh, they have a lot of that thing, so they must be really good at it, or they must sell a lot of them. And this also relates to the retail philosophy of no blank space. So if you walk into any random store and you see that they only have 10 items, you're not going to be there for very long because there's not much to look at. So if somebody finds one of your products in search, then they go click on your shop to see what else you have, and you only have a few products, they're not going to stay very long. Because the longer that someone stays in your shop, the more likely they are to make a purchase. Now you're probably thinking, Abby, how am I supposed to do that if you told me to niche down a second ago? Bundles, my friend. People love bundles. You can also make separate listings for things you have different variations of. So like if you have the same thing in a bunch of different colors or different sizes, different prints, then you can just make those all in separate listings. Because I see that a lot with people who are kind of starting out. They'll have a bunch of options for something. They'll all be crammed in one listing. You don't want to do that because you're likely not going to be able to get all of those variations in the cover photo, and then people won't see them. I know it's kind of like you don't want to pay the 20 cents for each one, but trust me, it's worth it. Number 4, the price is right. Pricing is one of the trickiest parts, I think, that most people struggle with. Most people are worried about overcharging and then people won't buy the products, but actually the real problem for businesses is undercharging. If you're not making a profit after materials, labor, packaging, shipping, the fees, you might as well not even have a business. I hate to say it, but it's true. At first, you'll probably be buying your supplies like for retail price somewhere like a craft store, and that's not sustainable in the long run. The top shops on Etsy are not buying their supplies at Joann's and Michael's, although I'll contradict myself in a second. But look into suppliers that have bulk or wholesale discounts. Joann Fabrics has a bulk program. They don't have like everything on their website on there, but I use it for some things. But a lot of the time it's as easy as Googling XYZ material wholesale or XYZ material bulk. So if you make t-shirts, for example, you might search vinyl wholesale, heat transfer vinyl wholesale, iron-on vinyl wholesale, t-shirts wholesale, bulk t-shirts. And don't be afraid to use places like eBay, AliExpress, those kind of places, because it's likely the same exact stuff, just cheaper because it doesn't have a name brand on it. So I can go in depth on pricing in a future video. It's just complicated, at least in my opinion. Also, you want to take into consideration if you want to wholesale or not, because that will influence your prices as well. So when I started out, I knew that I wanted to do wholesale, so my products are priced accordingly. That way I can wholesale them to other businesses and still make a profit at the wholesale price point. So number 5, tell your story. This is yet another one that I see with a lot of shops, but you want to make sure that your entire shop is filled out. Now this advice kind of goes for any shop like Shopify or Big Cartel, WooCommerce, but some of these things are specific to Etsy, so you want everything to be filled out. You want people to have things to look at. You want like your About Me section, your policies, all that stuff filled out. So on Etsy specifically, you want to make sure that your shop announcement, your shop story, FAQs, policy, and the About the Seller section are all filled out. I'm pretty sure that's all of them, hopefully. And a good reason to have this filled out on Etsy specifically is that they factor that into your search ranking. So there's a thing on Etsy called your quality score, and that's a whole separate thing, but part of it is whether you have your shop like info and about sections and policies and all that stuff filled out. So if you don't have those filled out, you're likely not going to rank in search. And then remember how I said a minute ago, because the longer that someone stays in your shop, the more likely they are to make a purchase. If you just have a few items and nothing about you or your shop, there's not much to look at. If you just have a few items in your shop and nothing else there, like about you, about the shop, then people are just going to click out of it because they're not going to have a chance to make a connection with you. People go to Etsy for the handmade aspect, and they want to know about the person who is making it. Fill those sections out genuinely without begging for sales or saying how you're a new seller or something like that. Just tell your story, tell why you started the shop, why you're passionate about your products, why your products are unique, things like that. Just be genuine about it and let your passion for your niche come through instead of just saying, hey, check out my shop, I'm a new seller, I'd love some sales, bye. Don't do that. So number 6, jump in, but also don't. So maybe you've been thinking about starting an Etsy for a while now, and I would say just to do it, but when you're ready. So when I started my shop, I had no plan. I didn't know how to price my items, didn't know how to take pictures, didn't know how to write titles and descriptions. It was a mess. My listings didn't sell, and I kept paying renewal fees. So I didn't have a bad product, I just didn't know how to use Etsy. So the thing is, you're not going to be able to know 100% before you start. That's just not practical. So learn as much as you can and to where you're comfortable, and then you can learn the rest on the fly. That's what basically everybody else does. So number 7, read the Etsy Seller Handbook or the Shopify articles. Those are great as well. Actually, I would suggest to read Shopify articles even if you don't sell on Shopify, because some of them are really great. So tying into the last one, the Etsy Seller Handbook is a great place to start. It kind of gets overwhelming, but it has a lot of like best practices and things about Etsy specifically. So despite some of the articles being almost 10 years old, there is a lot of good information in there. It's not a physical book, it's the help articles on Etsy. If you go to your shop manager, you go to help, I think, then it's in there somewhere, that's Seller Handbook. So number 8 is invest. I have a lot to say about this because it grinds my gears sometimes, but I'll try to be concise. So starting and running a business costs money. Period. You need to invest in the proper tools and supplies to get the job done. Namely, what grinds my gears, okay, if you're going to be shipping things, you need to get a label printer and a shipping scale, like bare minimum. Then anything else that will help you with your particular craft. Because I get that like a lot of people are on a budget or start an Etsy shop to make money, and well, that's great, but it's a business, so you have to have the right things to do it. And if you don't set yourself up for success in the beginning, it's not going to work. Because if you don't buy, like just for example, if you don't buy postage online, if you're in the US, you're wasting a lot of money if you don't buy and print your own shipping labels at home. So after maybe a few dozen orders, the shipping, the labels, and the printer and everything will pay for itself. And plus how much time it saves you because you're not cutting and taping labels on each package, and it looks more professional for your packages as well if you have an actual label printer. You should also invest your time into learning about your product, researching new products, making your existing ones more efficiently or making them better, and growing and connecting on social media and so on. So really, for me, and I've heard other like full-time sellers say this as well, but about 80% of your time is spent on running the business, doing marketing, researching, learning new things and stuff, and then about 20% is actually making product. So it's not exact, but just to give you an idea, because I'm not saying like you should spend 8 hours a day on the back end and then 2 hours a day crafting. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, that's just about how it works out, is like 80% and 20%. And that'll vary based on your experience, your niche, or the amount of orders you have, your lifestyle in general. And an important part of this as well is learning what to spend your time on effectively. That will help you the most. That's a struggle that I still have, is learning what I need to do that will make the most impact to the business instead of just sitting there and working on stuff that doesn't matter. So invest in your business financially and also timely with your time. Number 9 is prepare for a miracle, but don't expect one. So the harsh reality of starting an Etsy or a business in general is that they don't always succeed. So just because you have a product to sell, that doesn't mean people are going to flock to buy it. So there's a fine line between being confident and also being conscious and making smart decisions. At the end of the day, you want to be confident in your product and the benefits that it gives to your customers, because they can see that. Like, that is very, very obvious if you are confident in your product. So no amount of marketing, virality on social media, search engine optimization, all that stuff are a good substitute for a good product and good customer service. At the same time, if you have a good product, you can't just sit around waiting for it to sell out. So when you first start a business, you're likely not going to be able to pay yourself for a while. A lot of people go into it thinking that they're going to make a bunch of money right off the bat, but that's not true at all for 99.999% of people. You have to keep investing in good materials and learning more about sales and marketing and getting better at your craft. I can make another video about this as well, but it was really, really hard to know when to start paying myself. Because have you seen those business owners on TikTok and Instagram that are like, my business made 6 figures in the first 2 months? Like, that's great, but what they don't tell you is that they likely did not pay themselves a dime out of that, because they likely invested all that money back into their business or are massively in debt, because in order to make 6 figures of sales in that short amount of time, you had to have 6 figures worth of inventory. So just focus on your journey and your business. It's okay to take inspiration and motivation from others, but remember that they're not your blueprint. You are your blueprint. And number 10 is to keep learning. This is one of my biggest mistakes with my business that I still do. I'll be doing good, getting sales, then I relax, and then business takes a dip again. Things are constantly changing. There's constantly more to learn. So what worked for me or worked for you for your business last month may not work next month or next year. So you remember when Instagram photo posts got like a lot of reach and a lot of engagement like a couple years ago, and then they added that carousel post thing, and those were the only way to grow, and now the only way to be seen is to make reels. You got to stay up on all this. That's just an example though, like if you don't use Instagram, then whatever, but just things are constantly changing, especially with the internet. And believe me, it is tough doing everything yourself. I love having the creative freedom and not having to answer to anybody except Etsy. But it is a lot of work, and you have to do it no matter if you're making sales or not. Because one day you could be making a whole bunch of new products, and then the next day you're like, oh shoot, I haven't fulfilled these orders. Then you fulfill orders and you're like, oh, I gotta do my budget, or I gotta pay my quarterly taxes, and there's a lot to keep up with. If you wanted to start a business, it's your dream to work for yourself, then you'll make it work. You'll find a way. So this video is long enough. Let me know if you have any other questions in the comments. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Type9 Studio as well. And I'll have links to everything that I mentioned, as well as anything else I think would be helpful in the description box, as well as a link to my shop if you want to check it out. If you're struggling with your shop right now, I just want to let you know that you're doing a good job. You took the first step to start it and you made some stuff. That's great. A lot of people don't even take the first step, so you got it. Keep going. That's all for me today. I will see you in the next video and in the comments. Bye.